The council chamber was empty. Counselor Zefthar stood at the entrance, his 4 eyes blinking in confusion. The human section, 12 seats arranged in a perfect arc, sat vacant. Not a single human representative had arrived. In 300 years of council history, this had never happened. He walked across the polished floor, his footsteps echoing in the massive chamber. The other counselors were already seated, waiting. The Velcris delegation whispered among themselves. The Orathians checked their data screens repeatedly. Everyone noticed the absence. Zefthar took his seat and activated his communication device. He sent a message to Ambassador Hyunwoo, the lead human diplomat. No response. He tried Captain Daeun, who usually attended military briefings. Nothing. He contacted Dr. Jiwon at the medical research facility. Silence. A cold feeling spread through his chest. High Merchant Krelix spoke first, his voice carrying across the chamber. The Orathian leader was known for his impatience. Today he sounded worried instead. "Where are they?" he asked. "We have 17 trade disputes that need human mediators. My ships are waiting at the border stations." Before anyone could answer, alerts began flooding every screen in the chamber, messages from across the galaxy, all saying the same thing. Humans were missing, all of them. Station Omega-7 reported that human quarters were empty. Personal belongings were gone. The cafeteria where humans gathered every morning was silent. Security footage showed nothing unusual from the previous night. The humans simply weren't there anymore. From the Velcris homeworld came more disturbing news. Dr. Jiwon's laboratory was abandoned. Her research on genetic therapy, the project that would save the Velcris species from extinction, sat unfinished on her desk. Half-completed experiments were left in stasis. Notes were scattered everywhere, but the scientist herself had vanished. Military outposts sent urgent reports. Human peacekeepers who had maintained the Toran-Belthric ceasefire for 80 years were gone. Their barracks were empty. Their ships had left the docks. No one had seen them go. Zefthar watched the numbers climb on his screen. 47 million humans across 3,000 systems, all missing. "All at once, this is impossible," someone said. "You cannot move 47 million people overnight." "Apparently you can," Zefthar replied quietly. The council erupted in debate. Some called it a negotiation tactic. Others suggested a security threat had forced the humans to evacuate. A few wondered if this was some kind of elaborate test. Zefthar didn't believe any of those theories. He had worked with humans for 60 years. He knew how they operated. This was planned. Carefully, methodically planned. Then the transmission arrived. Every screen in the chamber flickered and switched to the same image. Ambassador Hyunwoo appeared, sitting in a simple chair against a plain background. He looked tired. Lines marked his face that Zefthar didn't remember seeing before. But his eyes were calm, determined. The ambassador spoke in that quiet, measured way he always had. No anger in his voice. No shouting. Just facts, delivered with devastating precision. "By the time you receive this message, every human will have left council space. We are not coming back. Not today. Not tomorrow. Perhaps not ever." The chamber fell silent. Hyunwoo continued. His words cut through the air like a blade. "For 300 years we served this council. We mediated your disputes. We stopped your wars. We saved your species from disease, from famine, from extinction. We built the infrastructure that connects your worlds. We trained your doctors, your engineers, your diplomats." He paused, his gaze seeming to look directly at each counselor. "And what did we receive in return? We were denied voting rights. Our representatives could attend council meetings but never vote on decisions. We paid taxes to fund galactic programs but had no say in how those funds were used. Our children born in council space were not granted citizenship. Our businesses faced regulations that didn't apply to yours." Zefthar felt his stomach tighten. He knew these things. Everyone knew, but they had always seemed like minor administrative issues, things that would be resolved eventually. "We asked for fair representation 47 times over 3 centuries, Hyunwoo said. 47 formal requests. Every single one was denied or delayed indefinitely. You gave us responsibilities without authority. You gave us work without recognition. You gave us value without voice." The ambassador leaned forward slightly, "So we made a choice. We gave you everything you needed and you took it as your right. You never asked if we were willing. You never considered what it cost us. You never wondered if we might leave. Now you will understand what you have lost." The transmission ended. The screens went dark. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the chamber exploded with voices. Counselors shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate action. Others called for investigation teams. A few suggested military intervention. Zephythar sat quietly, thinking. He remembered a conversation he'd had with Hyunwoo 5 years ago. They had been discussing a border dispute, something routine. The ambassador had seemed distracted that day. "Do you ever feel invisible?" Hyunwoo had asked suddenly. Zephythar had laughed, thinking it was a joke. Now he understood. The humans had been invisible. Everyone saw what they did, but no one truly saw them. 3 hours later, the first real crisis hit. A border dispute between two minor systems erupted into violence. For 20 years, human mediators had managed that particular conflict, keeping both sides talking instead of fighting. Without them, old hatreds flared instantly. Ships exchanged fire. Casualties mounted. The Council sent their own mediators, experienced diplomats from species known for neutrality. Both sides rejected them. One commander said something that would be repeated across the galaxy in the coming days. "We trusted the humans. They understood both sides. You only understand your own perspective." By evening, 6 more conflicts had reignited. Trade stations reported that human logistics coordinators who managed the complex scheduling were gone. Ships sat in docks, unable to proceed without clearance that no one else knew how to provide. Medical centers across 3 sectors sent urgent messages. Human doctors and researchers had trained local staff, but there were procedures and treatments that only humans fully understood. Patients with rare conditions faced uncertainty. The Council voted to classify the situation as a temporary diplomatic incident. They refused to acknowledge any systemic problem. Humans would return soon, they declared. This was just a negotiating position. Zephythar voted against the classification. He was one of only 3 counselors who did. He was assigned to lead the investigation team tasked with bringing the humans back. As he left the chamber that night, he looked at the empty human section one more time. Those 12 seats had always been occupied. For 300 years, humans had sat there listening, contributing, solving problems. He had taken their presence for granted, just like everyone else. Now they were gone. And Zephythar had a terrible feeling that bringing them back would not be as simple as the Council believed. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. When you build everything on the backs of those you refuse to value, eventually they walk away. And when they do, everything falls apart. 2 weeks after the humans left, the quantum relay network started failing. Zephythar stood in the communications center, watching technicians frantically work on systems they didn't understand. The massive network that connected every corner of the galaxy was breaking down, sector by sector. "Can you fix it?" he asked the lead technician, a Velcris engineer named Soth. Soth's tentacles twitched nervously. It was a sign of stress in his species. "I do not know how," Soth admitted. "The humans built this network. They maintained it. We thought we understood the basics, but now that we look deeper, nothing makes sense. The technology is far more complex than anyone realized." Zephythar pulled up the network schematics on his screen. Engineer Taesung had designed the system 80 years ago. It was considered a masterpiece of galactic infrastructure. Now looking at the plans, Zephythar saw layers upon layers of systems he didn't recognize. "They built it so only they could maintain it," he said slowly. "Yes," Soth confirmed, "and there is more. I found hidden protocols in the code. It appears the humans designed the network with planned obsolescence. Without regular maintenance from someone who understands these protocols, the system will fail completely within 6 months." The implications were staggering. Without the quantum relay network, communication across the galaxy would become impossible. Civilizations would be cut off from each other. Trade would collapse. Coordination between systems would end. The humans had known this day would come. They had prepared for it decades in advance. Zephythar's communicator buzzed. High Merchant Krelix wanted an emergency meeting. When Zephythar arrived at Krelix's office, the Orathian merchant looked like he hadn't slept in days. His scales, usually bright and polished, were dull. Papers and data screens covered every surface. "My entire trade empire is collapsing," Krelix said without greeting. "Do you know how many trade agreements humans mediated?" "I just ran the numbers. 73%. Nearly 3/4 of all interspecies trade in this galaxy. was negotiated by humans. He threw a datapad across the desk. Zefthar caught it and read the report. The numbers were worse than he'd imagined. Without human mediators, species do not trust each other, Krelix continued. The Taurans refuse to trade with the Belthrix. The Arathians will not do business with the Velcris without human guarantees. Everyone is pulling back. Markets are freezing. How long before it becomes critical? Zefthar asked. It already is critical. My economy has contracted by 40% in 2 weeks. If this continues, we face complete economic collapse within 3 months. Zefthar left Krelix's office with a heavy heart. The next stop on his schedule made things even worse. The Velcris government had requested an urgent consultation. When he arrived at their embassy, he found their entire leadership council waiting. The atmosphere was desperate. Chancellor Mevris spoke first. Her voice trembled slightly. Dr. Jiwan was developing a cure for our genetic collapse. You know this. What you may not know is that without her, our species will be extinct within 3 generations. We have 20 years at most. She gestured to a screen showing genetic charts that Zefthar didn't understand. Jiwan left her research behind. We have her notes, her equipment, everything. But we cannot continue her work. She was the only one who understood the synthesis process. Our best scientists have tried. Every attempt has failed. Some have made things worse, causing mutations we cannot reverse. Mevris looked directly at Zefthar. You must bring her back, not just for trade or communication. For survival. My people are dying. Zefthar wanted to promise help, but he couldn't. He had no idea where the humans had gone or how to contact them. How many other species depend on human medical research? He asked quietly. 14, Mevris replied. 14 species currently rely on human doctors or human-developed treatments for survival. Some have years. Others have months. The next crisis came from the military sector. Commander Thelnas of the Belthrix forces sent an emergency report. The Tauran-Belthrix ceasefire, maintained by human peacekeepers for 80 years, had collapsed. Fighting had erupted across 17 border zones. But there was something else in the report. Something more disturbing. Zefthar called Thelnas directly. Your report mentions behavioral regression. Explain. The Belthrix commander's face appeared on the screen. His species were natural warriors evolved for combat. Centuries ago, they had been considered dangerous. Then humans had developed psychological protocols that helped them control their aggressive instincts. My soldiers are changing, Thelnas said. The conditioning that humans helped us develop is breaking down. Ancient instincts are returning. Yesterday, 3 of my officers challenged each other to ritual combat over a minor disagreement. That has not happened in 200 years. He paused, and Zefthar saw something in his eyes that looked like fear. I can feel it too. The old ways calling to me. The desire for conquest, for dominance. Humans taught us to channel these urges into productive purposes. Without their guidance, without the regular psychological maintenance they provided, we are reverting. How many warrior species received similar treatment? Zefthar asked. 7 major species, dozens of minor ones, all experiencing the same regression. Zefthar spent the evening reviewing records. What he found shocked him. Over 300 years, humans had formally requested representation reform 47 times. He read through every request. They were reasonable, diplomatic, carefully worded. Each one asked for basic rights. Voting power proportional to their contributions. Citizenship for their children. Equal business regulations. Every single request had been denied. The responses were always the same. Not now, maybe later. These things take time. Be patient. 300 years of patience. 300 years of being told to wait. The humans had been given responsibilities without authority. They were expected to solve problems but not allowed to vote on policies. They paid taxes but couldn't decide how those taxes were spent. They saved lives but weren't granted the same rights as those they saved. Zefthar felt sick. He had been on the council for 60 years. He had voted on many of those denials himself. At the time, they had seemed like reasonable decisions. There were always good reasons to delay. Political complications, economic considerations, cultural sensitivities, but now he saw it differently. The council had taken everything humans offered and given nothing in return except the opportunity to give more. A new transmission arrived. This time from Captain Daun. The human military commander appeared on screen. She looked calm, professional as always. But there was something final in her expression. You are probably discovering the depth of your dependency on us, she said. Communication networks failing. Trade routes collapsing. Medical treatments unavailable. Ancient conflicts reigniting. This is not accidental. We did not build these systems to be universal. We built them to require us. Dae-Yoon leaned forward slightly. We prepared for this departure for 50 years. Every human knew. Every human participated. We built backup systems for ourselves while maintaining yours. We trained our children in secret. We established colonies beyond your borders. We prepared for the day when we could no longer tolerate being valued for our function, but not our existence. The transmission ended with coordinates. Not to where the humans had gone, but to something else. The human archives. Zefthar stared at the coordinates. He had never heard of the human archives. Apparently, there was still much he didn't know about the species that had just abandoned the galaxy. He scheduled a team to investigate the coordinates immediately. Meanwhile, reports continued flooding in. More conflicts erupting. More systems failing. More species facing extinction without human intervention. The council emergency session that night was chaos. Councilors shouted accusations at each other. Some blamed humans for sabotage. Others blamed themselves for not seeing this coming. A few still insisted the humans would return any day. Zefthar said nothing. He was beginning to understand something terrible. The galaxy hadn't just lost its problem solvers. It had lost the only species capable of holding civilization together. And they weren't coming back. The human archives sat in an abandoned station at the edge of council space. Zefthar's ship approached slowly. The station showed no life signs, no active systems except for one massive data core that pulsed with stored information. The humans had left it powered deliberately, waiting for someone to find it. He docked and entered alone. The corridors were dark except for emergency lighting. His footsteps echoed as he walked toward the central archive room. The door opened automatically. Inside, holographic displays activated, filling the room with light. A voice spoke calm and familiar. It was Ambassador Hyunwoo. Welcome to the Human Archives. This facility contains complete documentation of human contributions to galactic civilization. Everything we built, everything we fixed, everything we gave. We created this record because we knew that one day someone would need to understand what you lost. Zefthar sat down at the main console. The amount of data was staggering. 300 years of records organized by category, by date, by species affected. He didn't know where to start. He began with diplomatic records. The first file he opened was a speech by Minister Bora, delivered 150 years ago. The holographic image showed a middle-aged human woman standing before the council. Her voice was passionate but controlled. We do not ask for dominance, Bora said. We ask for recognition. We do not demand privilege. We ask for equity. We have served this council faithfully for 150 years. We have stopped wars, cured diseases, built the infrastructure that connects you. All we ask in return is a voice equal to our contributions. Zefthar watched the council's response. He recognized several councilors from his own species, long dead now. Their answer was polite but firm. Not yet, be patient. These things require time. He opened another file. Another speech. Then another. 47 requests over 3 centuries, each one carefully documented, each one denied. Bora's final speech, delivered 20 years before her death, was different. The passion was gone, replaced by exhausted resignation. We have been patient, she said quietly. We have waited. We have hoped. We have given everything asked of us and more. But patience without result is not virtue. It is exploitation. We will continue to serve, but know this. We are keeping our own records now. One day the galaxy will understand what it took from us. Zefthar moved to the technical archives. Engineering records filled the screens. He searched for information about the quantum relay network and found engineer Tae-sung's personal logs. The entries spanned 40 years, documenting the network's construction. But there were private notes too, never meant for official reports. One entry, dated 30 years ago, made Zefthar's blood run cold. The council rejected our request for shared oversight of the relay network. They want us to build and maintain it, but not to have any official control. Fine. We will build it to their specifications. But I am implementing Protocol Lighthouse. Only humans will understand the deep maintenance requirements. If we ever need to leave, the network will fail without us. They want us to be essential but powerless. Let them learn what essential really means. Protocol Lighthouse. The planned obsolescence that Soth had discovered. It had been deliberate from the beginning. Zefthar felt sick. The humans had been planning their departure for decades. Every system they built, every service they provided had been designed with this moment in mind. He opened the military archives next. Captain Dayun's service record appeared. The numbers were overwhelming. 1,247 conflicts prevented. Thousands of lives saved. Hundreds of peace treaties negotiated. The record showed something else too. In every case, the Council's official history credited the warring parties themselves for choosing peace. Human mediators were mentioned only in footnotes, if at all. Dayun had written about this in her personal logs. One entry stood out. Today I stopped the Tauren-Belthrix conflict from reigniting. Again. It took 3 weeks of careful negotiation. Both sides were ready to go to war over a border dispute. I found a compromise that satisfied everyone. The Council announcement praised both species for their wisdom and restraint. My name was not mentioned. This happens every time. We do the work. They take the credit. I am tired of being invisible. Zefthar sat back in his chair. He had read that announcement. He had even voted to commend both species for their peaceful resolution. He had never known a human was involved. The medical archives were even more heartbreaking. Dr. Jiwan's research files detailed her work on 14 different species. Genetic therapy for the Velcris, plague prevention for the Orathians, regenerative medicine for the Belthrix. Each project had saved millions of lives. Her personal notes revealed the emotional cost. I have dedicated my life to saving species that are not my own. I have trained thousands of doctors across the galaxy. I have shared every discovery freely. Today, a Velcris counselor asked why humans insist on interfering in galactic affairs. Interfering. That is what he called my work. The work that will save his species from extinction. I have no words left. The entry was dated 2 years before the departure. Zefthar could feel the pain in every word. He spent hours reading through the archives. Stories of human contributions that had been forgotten or attributed to others. Innovations dismissed as obvious. Sacrifices taken for granted. Then he found the Exodus records, Operation Silent Departure. The plan was massive in scope, coordinated across 3 centuries. It detailed everything. How humans had gradually established colonies outside Council space. How they had trained their children in secret. How they had built backup systems for themselves while maintaining Council infrastructure. The operation had involved every single human in Council space. 47 million people all keeping the same secret for decades. The level of coordination was unprecedented in galactic history. More striking was the unity. Not one human had broken ranks. Not one had revealed the plan. They had all agreed. They had all chosen to leave together. Zefthar found Ambassador Hyunwoo's final archive entry, dated 1 day before the departure. The ambassador sat in a simple room, looking directly at the camera. He looked tired but peaceful, like someone who had finally made a difficult decision. This is my final message to the archives. Tomorrow we leave. Every human in Council space will depart simultaneously. We have prepared for this for 50 years. Some say we should have left sooner. Others believe we should have stayed longer, tried harder to change things. But we all agree on this. We cannot continue to give everything while being valued for nothing. Hyunwoo paused, choosing his words carefully. The galaxy taught us we were valued for our function, not our existence. They needed our skills but did not want us as equals. They wanted our labor but not our voice. They wanted our sacrifice but not our participation. So we became what they wanted us to be, invisible. We did our work silently. We asked for nothing. We faded into the background of galactic civilization. His expression hardened. Now they will learn what invisible really means. When the essential workers disappear, everything falls apart. They built their civilization on our backs and called it progress. They created systems that only we could maintain and called it efficiency. They took our contributions and erased our names from the history books. Hyunwoo leaned forward. We left these archives so that someday someone might understand. We did not leave out of anger, though we had reason. We did not leave out of hatred, though we were hated by some. We left because we finally understood a simple truth. You cannot build a life on being needed. You must be valued. You must be seen. You must be heard. The council gave us none of these things, so we left to find them elsewhere. The message ended. Zefthar sat in the dark archive room for a long time. The weight of understanding pressed down on him. The humans had not abandoned the galaxy out of spite. They had left out of dignity. Every species in the council had taken human contributions for granted. They had treated humans as tools, as services, as convenient solutions to problems. They had never treated them as equals, and now the tools were gone. The services had ended. The solutions were no longer available. Zefthar downloaded the complete archives and returned to his ship. He had to show the council what he had found. He had to make them understand. But as he set course back to council headquarters, he wondered if understanding would be enough. The damage was done. The humans were gone, and the galaxy was falling apart without them. The question was no longer how to bring them back. The question was whether the galaxy deserved them to return. 3 months after the humans left, the galaxy was burning. Zefthar stood in the council chamber watching the casualty reports scroll across the main display. The numbers climbed every hour. Millions dead, billions displaced, entire systems in chaos. The Tauran-Belthrix conflict had exploded into full warfare. Without human peacekeepers to mediate, both sides had reverted to total war doctrine. Cities were destroyed, civilian populations targeted. The rules of engagement that humans had carefully established over 80 years were forgotten in weeks. Commander Thelnes appeared on the communication screen. The Belthrix officer looked haggard. His eyes had a wild quality that Zefthar had never seen before. "We cannot stop," Thelnes said. His voice was strained. "My soldiers will not stop. The old instincts are too strong now. Every day, more of us revert to warrior mentality. Yesterday, my own second-in-command challenged me to single combat. I had to kill him. This would never have happened when the humans were here. Can you negotiate with the Taurans?" Zefthar asked, though he already knew the answer. "Negotiate?" Thelnes laughed bitterly. "We have forgotten how. Humans taught us compromise, taught us to see value in peace. Without them, there is only strength and weakness. Victory or defeat? The Taurans feel the same way. This war will not end until one of us is extinct." The council had sent their best mediators to stop the conflict. All had failed. Some had been killed. Others had fled after realizing that neither side was willing to listen to anyone except humans. Similar conflicts had erupted across 17 sectors. Old grudges that humans had kept under control for centuries were exploding into violence. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson. Peace required more than just wanting it. It required skills that only humans seemed to possess. The medical crisis was equally devastating. Chancellor Mevris of the Velcris sent daily updates. Each one was more desperate than the last. The genetic collapse that Dr. G1 had been treating was accelerating. Without her knowledge, without her ability to synthesize the cure, the Velcris were dying. The latest report showed birth defects increasing by 30% each month. The Velcris population was already declining. At this rate, they would be extinct in 20 years. The council had assembled the galaxy's best scientists to continue G1's work. They had her notes, her equipment, her research data, everything except her understanding. Their attempts to synthesize the cure had all failed. Some attempts had made things worse, causing mutations that killed patients within days. The scientists were brilliant, but they were not human. They did not think the way G1 had thought. 13 other species faced similar fates. Diseases that humans had controlled were spreading again. Treatments that humans had developed were running out. Medical knowledge that humans had built over centuries was proving impossible to replace. The economic collapse was complete. High Merchant Krelix no longer attended council sessions. His trade empire had crumbled entirely. The Arathian economy had contracted by 73% in 3 months. Zefthar visited him one evening. Krelix sat alone in his office, surrounded by shut-down data screens. The lights were dim. The merchant looked like he had aged 10 years. "It is over," Krelix said without looking up. "Everything I built is gone. Do you know why? Because humans were the only ones everyone trusted. They had no agenda except fairness. They did not favor one species over another. They just wanted trade to work." He finally looked at Zefthar. "I tried to hire non-human mediators. They all failed. The Taurans would not trust Velcris mediators. The Belthrix would not trust Arathian ones. Everyone suspected bias, but humans? Everyone trusted humans because humans had earned it over 300 years. And we threw that away. Riots had broken out on 17 Orathian worlds. The population blamed the merchant class for the collapse. More accurately, they blamed the Council for driving away the humans. My people are saying the Council destroyed the galaxy by refusing humans' basic rights, Krellick said. They are correct. We valued human labor but not human dignity. Now we have neither. The quantum relay network had deteriorated to 30% capacity. Communication between sectors was sporadic. Entire regions were cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Technician Soth had assembled teams of engineers from every species to try to repair the system. They had made no progress. The network was too complex, too carefully designed to require human expertise. We could rebuild it from scratch, Soth told Zefthar. It would take 20 years and require cooperation from every species in the Council. Given the current state of the galaxy, that cooperation is impossible. Without the relay network, the Council itself was falling apart. Member species could not coordinate. Joint projects collapsed. The shared governance that had held the galaxy together for 1,000 years was dissolving. Zefthar called an emergency session. He had to present his findings from the human archives. The Council needed to understand what had happened and why. The chamber was half empty. Many councillors could no longer travel due to the relay network failures. Others were dealing with crises on their homeworlds. Only 20 of the 72 council members attended. Zefthar stood at the podium and activated the archive displays. Images and data filled the screens. 300 years of human contributions, 300 years of human requests for fair treatment, 300 years of council denials. He spoke slowly, making sure every word was clear. We did not lose humans because they were angry. We lost them because we made their existence intolerable. We built a civilization that only they could maintain, then denied them the rights enjoyed by those they served. We took their labor for granted. We erased their contributions from history. We treated them as tools, not people. He showed Minister Bora's speeches, Captain Dayun's unrecognized achievements, Dr. Jiwan's heartbroken notes, Engineer Taesung's deliberate design of systems that would fail without human maintenance. This was not sabotage, Zefthar said. This was survival. Humans spent 50 years preparing to leave because they knew we would never change. They were right. Every time they asked for fair treatment, we said later. Every time they contributed, we took credit. Every time they saved us, we acted like we had saved ourselves. Silence filled the chamber. One counselor spoke up. An elderly Velcris named Toran. His voice shook with anger. So what are you suggesting? That we admit we were wrong? That we beg them to come back? My species is dying, Zefthar. Millions of my people will die because one human doctor decided her feelings were more important than our lives. Zefthar felt anger rise in his chest. He fought to keep his voice calm. Dr. Jiwan gave 40 years of her life to saving your species. 40 years. She developed the cure that could save you, and in return you called her work interference. You treated her like she was overstepping. Did you ever thank her? Did you ever acknowledge that without her, the Velcris would already be extinct? Toran had no answer. Zefthar continued, his voice growing harder. Humans did not decide their feelings were more important than your lives. You decided their dignity was less important than your convenience. They asked for equality. You gave them exploitation. They asked for recognition. You gave them invisibility. This is not their failure. It is ours. He displayed the final statistics from the archives. Humans prevented over 30,000 conflicts in 300 years. They developed medical treatments that saved 14 species from extinction. They built 90% of the infrastructure we rely on daily. They trained hundreds of thousands of professionals across every field. And we never gave them voting rights, never granted their children citizenship, never treated them as equals. Zefthar looked at each counselor present. The galaxy is collapsing because we built it on exploitation. We created a system that required human competence but denied human agency. We wanted their service but not their voice. Now we have neither, and we deserve this outcome. The session ended in chaos. Some counselors agreed with Zefthar. Others accused him of betraying the council. A few stormed out entirely. That night, Zefthar received a message. A single line of text from an unknown source. You are beginning to understand. Keep going, it was unsigned. But Zefthar knew it was from the humans. They were watching. They were waiting to see if the council could face the truth. The question was, could they? 6 months after the humans left, the Galactic Council was dying. 30 systems had withdrawn their membership. Wars raged across 12 sectors. The quantum relay network was at 15% capacity. Medical crises affected 23 species. The economy had collapsed to a fraction of its former strength. Zefthar watched from the council chamber as civilization crumbled. The remaining councilors met in person now, since remote communication was barely functional. Only 42 of 72 members still attended. The rest had given up or were too busy with crises at home. Then the message arrived. Every functional screen in council space received it simultaneously. A transmission from coordinates beyond known space, from a region the council had declared worthless 500 years ago. Ambassador Hyunwoo appeared. He looked older than before, but healthier. The exhaustion that had marked his face during his last transmission was gone. He sat in a comfortable room with windows showing unfamiliar stars. "Greetings to the Galactic Council," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "By now you understand what you have lost. Communication is failing. Trade has collapsed. Wars are spreading. Medical knowledge is disappearing. The infrastructure you depend on is breaking down." He paused, letting the words sink in. "You want to know where we went? The coordinates of this transmission show you. 500 years ago, the Council surveyed this region and declared it uninhabitable. Too far from trade routes, resources too difficult to access. Not worth the investment. We found it first. We colonized it quietly. We built our true home here while maintaining a presence in your space." The camera pulled back to show a window view. A planet hung in space, green and blue and beautiful. Cities glowed on the surface. Ships moved in orbit. It was clearly a thriving civilization. "We call it Haven," Hyunwoo said. "Population 47 million. All the humans who left council space now live here. We are rebuilding, not just our civilization, but our dignity." He looked directly at the camera. "You want us to return, to fix your problems, to restore what you have lost. We have discussed this among ourselves. The question is not whether we can return. The question is whether we should." Zefthar felt his hearts beating faster. The entire council chamber was silent. "We loved the galaxy," Hyunwoo continued. His voice carried sadness. "We believed in the council's ideals, peace, cooperation, shared prosperity. We gave everything to make those ideals real. But you taught us a hard lesson. Service without recognition is not partnership. It is exploitation. Contribution without voice is not cooperation. It is slavery." The image changed. Documents appeared on screen. Records of human requests for representation. Census data showing human children denied citizenship. Economic reports showing discriminatory regulations against human businesses. Legal transcripts of cases where humans were denied rights that other species enjoyed. "This is what you gave us in exchange for 300 years of service, denial, delay, dismissal. We asked for equality 47 times. You refused every time. You wanted our contributions but not our presence. You valued our function but not our existence." The image returned to Hyunwoo. He looked tired now, the weight of history in his eyes. "So we left, and now you face a choice. You can try to continue without us. Your civilization will fall. Wars will spread. Species will go extinct. Communication will fail completely. Within 5 years, the council will cease to exist. Or you can change." He leaned forward. "These are our conditions for returning. Full voting representation on the council, proportional to our contributions. Formal acknowledgement of 3 centuries of exploitation. Historical records corrected to include human contributions. Reparations paid not in currency but in political reform. The council must restructure to prevent any species from being exploited as we were." Murmurs filled the council chamber. Some councilors looked relieved. Others looked angry. Hyunwoo continued, his voice firm. "These conditions are not negotiable. We will not return as servants. We will not return as tools. We will return only as equals. If you cannot accept this, then we wish you well. We will build our own civilization here, one where contribution is rewarded with voice, where service is met with respect, where no one is invisible." The image changed again. Dr. Jiwon appeared, standing in a medical facility. "I completed the Velcris cure 3 months ago," she said. Her voice was gentle but firm. "I had all the resources and time I needed here. The cure is ready. I could transmit the synthesis protocols right now and save millions of lives. But I will not give it freely to people who called my life's work interference. She held up a data chip. This contains cures for 14 species-specific diseases, treatments I developed over 40 years, knowledge that could save billions of lives. I want to share it. I am a doctor. Saving lives is what I do, but I cannot continue giving everything while being valued for nothing. Change your system. Give us dignity, then I will give you this. The transmission returned to Hyunwoo. You have 1 month to decide. Accept our conditions and transmit your agreement. We will return and work with you to rebuild. Refuse and we will never contact you again. The choice is yours. The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted. Councilors shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate acceptance. Others called the conditions insulting. A few argued that the council should refuse out of principle. Zefthar remained silent. He understood the weight of this moment. The council was being forced to confront 300 years of injustice. Some would accept it. Others would rather see civilization fall than admit they were wrong. Chancellor Mevris of the Velcris stood. Her voice cut through the noise. I will speak plainly. My species is dying. Dr. Jiwan has the cure. She could save us. But she will not give it until we acknowledge what we did to her people. Some of you think this is blackmail. I think it is justice. She looked around the chamber. We treated humans as tools. We used them until they broke. When they asked for basic respect, we told them to wait. Now they are gone and we are facing the consequences. The question is not whether their conditions are fair. The question is whether we have the courage to admit we were wrong. An Orathian counselor stood up, his scales flushed with anger. You want us to restructure the entire council? To give humans power they have not earned? To admit that we exploited them? This is ridiculous. We gave them opportunities. We let them participate. If they were unhappy, they should have negotiated better terms. Zefthar could not stay silent anymore. He stood. They tried to negotiate better terms 47 times. We refused every time. We did not let them participate. We used them. There is a difference. And now we must face a simple truth. Pride or survival. We can maintain our pride and watch the galaxy die, or we can swallow our pride and accept that we need them more than they need us. High Merchant Krelix, who had been silent for months, finally spoke. The economic data is clear. Without human mediation, galactic trade will never recover. Without human expertise, our infrastructure will fail completely. Without human medical knowledge, 14 species will go extinct. These are not opinions. These are facts. We can argue about fairness all we want, but facts do not care about our feelings. Commander Thelnas appeared via one of the few working communication channels. The Belthrix officer looked exhausted. My species is reverting to savagery. Every day we become more like our ancestors. Violent, aggressive, unable to cooperate. Humans taught us to be better than our instincts. They showed us that strength could be used for protection instead of conquest. Without them, we are losing ourselves. His image flickered as the connection weakened. I do not care about politics. I do not care about council pride. I care that my people are dying. Not from weapons, from losing what made us civilized. If accepting human conditions saves us, then accept them. The debate raged for hours. Some counselors argued for acceptance, others for refusal. A few suggested trying to find humans and force them to return. Zefthar listened to it all. He heard the anger, the fear, the desperation. But he also heard something else. Slowly, grudgingly, more counselors were accepting the truth. The galaxy had built itself on human labor while denying human dignity. That system had collapsed. The only way forward was to build something new, something fair. As the session ended, Zefthar looked at the empty human section one more time. Those 12 seats had been vacant for 6 months. Soon the council would vote on whether they would ever be filled again. The vote would require unanimous consent to change the council charter. Every species would have to agree. Every species would have to admit they had been wrong. It seemed impossible. But then, so had human departure. The galaxy was learning that impossible things happen when you push people too far. The question now was whether they could learn the next lesson. Impossible things are also required to make amends. 1 month. That was all the time they had to decide whether civilization was worth more than pride.